Hello to my beautiful family of light and fellow earth walkers. Thank you for joining me on this adventure on the earth. I welcome you either back or if you're new to this channel, I'm Claudia. And at the moment, I am retelling notes that I've made towards a book regarding how I went from a rational business person with a city in the Pacific Northwest to being somebody who's anything but. And so this is the story of my life, and Spirit is Calling. This is the fourth installment. It's actually the continuation of and finality of chapter 3. And so I will just give a couple of brief sentences that I am in Bend, Oregon with my son and a couple of friends who had invited us. They've gone skiing. I'm on the porch, drifting, looking at a big blanket of white across from me. And I had sat down and my mind wandered and drifted, and out of the ethers, my deceased brother, Stephen, appeared floating down toward me, holding out his hand for me to take. "Come with me," he said. "There are things I want to tell you." Taking his hand and easily lifting out of my body, together we floated up to a cloud, where we sat and he began stating, "You're going to move to Cody, Wyoming." I found this to be as natural as if he were alive and we were old friends having coffee at the kitchen table. The fact that he was in life abusive towards me, and I didn't like him at all, old friends, never entered the picture. But as he spoke, I followed along perfectly, naturally, item for item. He read from a scroll-like paper. It appeared to be a list we had previously agreed to. And from the list, he gave me a lengthy set of instructions. Intently staring at me, he stated that I needed to take care of these things before selling the house. In my mind's eye, as each item was given, awaiting my comprehension and agreement, only then was it imprinted on the paper which he held, creating the list. Then I clearly saw the list imprinting itself within me. The list included items that required repair, replacement, or fixing inside and outside the house, the garage, and around the yard. It included things to do with the chimney, the roof, the gutters, replacement of electrical fixtures, and even a wall in the bathroom, a gouge in the kitchen floor, linoleum, and others. I was told I would have 2 yard sales and was told I'd know what items to get rid of, and the dates had been attached to each of the major items on the list. The final comment was that I was preparing the house to sell and that I would know when it was time to put it on the market. Most of the instructions were perfectly clear, and I had no questions. What seemed like minutes took nearly 2 hours. However, a great deal of time feels accounted for. It seemed like there was time, and I'm without explanation of what else took place. It just seems like there's more that wasn't revealed or meant for me to remember at this time. When I returned from my perch on the cloud back into myself, I sat in silence, still looking out at the snowy field as if in a fog, perhaps a dream that remains as vivid to me today as it was at the time that it occurred. I know that it was a lucid dream, one in which I knew myself to be dreaming. A few cross-country skiers swishing along the trails brought me back into myself on that snowy perch. It took several minutes before I noticed I was losing the sense of weightlessness and was now feeling the impact of the denseness of my active mind and body growing heavier within me. Still in something of an ethereal state, integration of what happened and time for me to begin gathering myself together was underway. Taking the now icy cold cup, I went inside to reheat the cocoa. It had been 2 hours since I went out onto the porch. I began slowly, at first having trouble wrapping my mind around that and the whole event. While replaying it over in my mind, that amount of time, I couldn't account for it. It flew by like minutes. What else had happened, I wondered. Everything happened very quickly, according to my reckoning. While the cocoa was in the microwave reheating, I searched the bookshelves for a map of Wyoming, hoping to locate Cody, a place I'd never been, how far away it was, how big, and what I was to do there. Were there really cowboys, cattle drives, and guns? Retrieving the reheated cocoa, I lay the road atlas I'd found out on the table and searched for Cody. Still in a fog, but less dense. Still not putting the pieces of this puzzle together very well. I couldn't even be certain of what questions now to ask beyond the basics of work and shelter. What life I was to live there seemed the biggest question. This move was also a huge life-changing risk. The more I came out of the fog and back into my body and mind, the more questions without answers there were. Feeling the weight and magnitude of such a move setting in, there was no logical reasoning given for this radical change that I was being asked, or was it told, to make. Still unclear and a bit foggy, my skiers out, hours away from returning, I dressed and took the car to the village. I needed something grounding, rational, and the cold, clear air that accompanied window shopping and walking seemed to be the cure. I didn't say anything to anyone, but spent the day trying to process whether I'd made what happened up. Didn't seem likely, too clear. But there simply was no explanation, and my mind couldn't wrap itself around it. I kept silent about it when everyone returned. In fact, what could I say and not seem like a mad, deranged person? By the time my head hit the pillow that night, I lay on my back and closed my eyes. I remember clearly thinking, Cody, Wyoming? While questioning this move, in my mind I made the statement, I don't think so. Out of the blue and the dark, his face at lightning speed hovered nose to nose within inches of my face. He stared into my eyes, through and deep into me. I felt like all of my doubts, fears, and thoughts were being revealed with a piercing intensity that couldn't be mistaken. He said, "You're not listening to me," to which I replied, "I got every word." With that, I knew I hadn't made it up, and all doubt dissolved. That was the end of my questioning. As the apparition came, expecting to see Stephen, I was surprised and startled even when recognition eluded me. It happened so quickly that I didn't have time to react. Not Stephen at all, someone else I didn't recognize. Nevertheless, the impact was the same. There was absolutely no doubt I would be doing this. I should have been afraid. Quaking in my boots came to mind as I considered the encounter later. Clearly, I wasn't. In fact, it was just the opposite. In spite of never having encountered anything so blatantly ethereal, I was peaceful. The exchange of words having been internal, something not spoken aloud, and I had only heard voices, but I was communicating in the same way, and it took me back to the cloud. In a state of calm, with strong resoluteness, clarity of purpose, and of trust and truth, so powerful that it permeated all that I am. All the words between us that came in the form of thought were as if I was being shown the contract which I had signed with all of the stipulations therein. And that lest I forget, the messenger I'd requested to remind me had indeed arrived on schedule. I was about to embark on a new life, making changes without logic, reason. I wasn't even certain I would be able to do that. I'd never been asked to do something like that before. But with something beyond a feeling, firmly imprinted deeply within, I knew I had to. What could I tell that to that would find, who could I tell that to that wouldn't find me mad? I loved the feeling I had of absolute certainty. It was the first time in my life I felt that I was standing in truth and a belief and knowing, a certainty that there is something bigger at work in my life. I knew that telling anyone would mean trying to explain the unexplainable, defending a choice which has no logic attached to it, instead of making a decision born of rationale, is very much impossible. And so I began 1990 on a solitary journey, forever altering my life and I dare say the lives of everyone I knew. Thank you for listening. That's the end of chapter 3. It's okay to dream. And for these days, I realize that was the beginning of more than a dream. So thank you so much for watching, listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're finding something there about your own life and the events within it that lead you to know there's something bigger than you or me at work in our lives. That's my mission and my goal, is to help you understand that and seek the ways, which is what my first 30-some videos are all about. You getting to know a deeper you better. I hope you'll look at those. So thank you so much for liking and subscribing, sharing with your friends, and having conversations about it. I appreciate all of your comments. I was guided to do this and had doubts in the beginning. In fact, I was so nervous. I think I kind of botched the first couple of, but I'm not going to go backwards. I'm somebody who marches forward. So thank you again for joining me. If you want to know more about me, it's down below. I love you this much. Be well, be safe, be happy. Be reminded that you're a soul on this wonderful journey we call life. I'll see you in the next video.